It's clear we come from different ages. Realization come in stages, leave them spellbound like mages. I run through enemies like medieval knights with maces, many spaces above you like outer spaces.
What's up, my Wizards Dev from SBMTG, and today I've got something that you suggested in the comments section, and then the other day when I told you I was going to bring it to you, you kind of freaked out a little bit. This is Assault Formation. Gotten a lot of comments about this deck, and a lot of emails. This deck probably broke the email record. There's obviously a lot of different ways to build it, as you've all informed me of. But there's green-white, there's green-black, there's Sultai, there's Jund, but today I'm going to focus on the two builds that I think are the most bang for your buck depending on your budget. I think that if you're on a budget, you just got a couple of bucks to spend, the green-blue, the Simic Eldrazi Assault Formation, that's probably the deck you want to go with. I think there's a lot of good things going for that deck, and if you have some money, I think the best thing you can do is add red to that color combination and do Temur Eldrazi Assault Formation. I'll give you both right now. As usual, budget deck first, and I might as well go ahead and tell you about Assault Formation. We're playing a playset of it in both decks here, and some people might want to play 3 copies, but I just want to make sure that we always have an Assault Formation, as much as possible anyway. We don't have many ways of tutoring this up or anything, so we want to play the full playset of it, especially with the things in the format that break enchantments. You know, Nahiri's in the format, Dromoka's Command is public enemy #1, and there's like Worldbreaker can break enchantments too, so you know, and if they break this thing one time, we really have a problem winning. So we have to have as many copies of it as possible. I also want to point out that the pump is really, really relevant on this, and you're not always going to play it on turn 2. Sometimes you'll play this on turn 5, 6 after you get set up. And if you play it turn 5 or 6, then you'll have extra mana to put the pump into creatures, or maybe you can make one of your defenders attack. You know, so not bad as sort of a combat trick. It's not really a combat trick, but you know, they may not know that you have the ability to swing when the turn begins. You play your Assault Formation and suddenly you've got an army of pretty huge dudes online. So Assault Formation's great. We should play every copy of it that's legal to play. There's 30 creatures in the deck, and we want to obviously take advantage of creatures that have high toughness for a low mana cost. And there's a lot of these in the format, and a lot of them do cool stuff, starting with Jedi Offshoot. I want to play a full playset of Jedi Offshoot here, at least in the budget deck. I've cut it to 3 in the competitive, but we'll get there in a second. As far as Jedi Offshoot goes, I just think it's great in keeping us in the game for a little bit longer. You know, sometimes we can gain as much as 5, 6 more life off of this over the course of the game, especially if we're able to have multiples out. It's really good in multiples. Good turn 1 play, and can become a 3-power guy later on once you play your formation. So it's good to have creatures that you can play before Assault Formation if you're playing formation on curve. So I'm playing a total of 8 1-drops in the budget deck here because I really like the sort of progression of 1-drop, Assault Formation, 3-drop. So just especially when you can turn your 1-drop into a 3 or 4 power guy. So definitely want to play this. The other 1-drop I'm playing is a full playset of Sidisi's Faithful here. Sidisi's Faithful, great as removal, and note that Exploit is a May ability, so this can just be a 1-mana 4/4 if that's all you want out of it. But can also be removal. You know, that's always great to have that option. So I would definitely want to play the whole playset of Faithful here. I think it's a great creature. We'll also play a playset of Tide Drifter, getting into the 2-drops here. Tide Drifter is just super premium. It's a 2-mana 5/5 once you have Assault Formation out. And we're playing a bunch of colorless creatures in the deck that this buffs. Hello, Big B. That came out of nowhere. Actually, you've been behind me this whole time, haven't you, creeper? Can buff a lot of our creatures out of languish range, which is super important. So definitely Tide Drifter. Just the fact that it's a 2-mana 5/5 is good enough. We have another slot here for a 2-drop, and I'll give you a choice here. I'll do that in the competitive deck too. But in the budget deck, I think we can have a choice here between Erdwall Illuminator and Sigiled Starfish, either one at a 4 of here. Sigiled Starfish I actually kind of like as a 2-mana 3/3 once formation's out. And this can really set up draws for you. And if you're digging for a formation, this is one of the better ways of doing it. Starfish is actually a little better than it looks. But Illuminator flies, which may give it the edge. We're really weak to flyers in this deck, actually. We have some problems against them. So it's great to have a flying creature in Illuminator. And even though the clue thing, the investigate mechanic thing, doesn't matter on him really at all in this deck, it's just great to have a 2-mana 3/3 flyer, or a 2-mana 1/3 to block before you have your formation. But Sigiled Starfish will set up your draws for you, so kind of your choice here, and I would probably inch toward Illuminator because we're so weak to flyers. But Sigiled Starfish, great in the long game. It can help you find your formation. Into the 3-drops, I'm going to play 4 copies of Void Grafter in the deck. Great counterspell. There's a lot of spot removal going around in the format right now. This is especially good against Declaration of Stone because we're playing a lot of 4-ofs of our creatures here. So there will be times when we have like 2 of the same guy out. They go to Declaration and Stone. This is a really good counterspell. Not only that, you know, 4 power once you have your Assault Formation out is good. And it has Flash, really good blocker. You know, we've got a couple of ways of screwing up their blocks in the deck, which is pretty nice for screwing up their attack step. So always good to have that when you're playing 30 creatures. You don't get any spells. So I like when our creatures are our spells. Void Grafter is great for that. We're playing a 4-of Benthic Infiltrator in the deck. This is just like a 4-power unblockable guy, which also happens to ingest, which can sometimes hit really good stuff. So I love Benthic Infiltrator in this deck. I think he's one of the main reasons, honestly, to play blue in your Assault Formation deck. Like this Tide Drifter and a couple of other things. But love Infiltrator. He's really, really good, especially once you do have a Tide Drifter out. That's 5 life a turn that they can't block. So I love it. I love the ingest on it sometimes. So yes to Benthic Infiltrator, one of the all-stars in the deck. Here's one that might surprise you a little bit, but bear with me here, and there are other options. But 2 copies of Hermit of the Natternulls here. It's basically a 3-mana, 3-power guy once you have your Assault Formation, but it still has power if you don't have Assault Formation. We don't have a whole lot of that in the deck, so it's worth pointing out. Once it does flip, it's a 5-power guy if we have our Assault Formation out, which is very good. It's technically one of the bigger creatures in the whole deck. And punishes players for playing spells on our turn, which is actually pretty awesome. There's not many ways we have of like drawing cards in this deck. So especially once it flips, if we can just get 2 cards once, that's insane. It really stops them from playing stuff during our turn, which can be a godsend. So really have enjoyed it, but I don't want to play too many copies of it. And to finish off the creatures, something that also may seem a little weird, but it's been great. This is 4 whole copies of Nivix's Barrier here, which is a pretty poor looking card, but obviously a 4-power guy once you have your formation out. And even if you don't have a formation out, this is not a bad combat trick. This is basically a fog on 1 creature, not bad at all. So, and if you do have your formation out, this can really wreak havoc over a combat step. So really also important that it has flash too. We have a total of like 8 creatures with flash in our Assault Formation deck, which can really... You biting me? You alright, buddy? And there's one more card in the main deck here, a spell. This is 3 copies of Shape the Sand. Shape the Sands is an amazing combat trick. Even if we don't have an Assault Formation out, we can block fire, whatever, our guy will live. But if we do have a formation out, this is basically 1 mana for 5 extra power, which at instant speed, which is just freaking crazy. So absolutely, yes. I mean, we can get through for like as much as 9 or 10 damage sometimes in a combat step if they don't block the wrong guy. So, yes, we got to make room for Shape the Sands, and I didn't put it in the competitive deck. This deck wants stuff like this a little bit more. It's a little lower to the ground. It tries to finish a little bit faster for the most part. So I wanted a trick like this in the deck to just really be a blowout if they don't block a guy. 23 lands in the deck, and it's pretty cut and dried here. Evolving Wilds, we got the green-blue tap land thing, you know, and some basic lands. That's all you need. Just play this. You'll be fine. Here's a sideboard here. We got a couple of ways of countering spells, Dispel and Negate. And we're sort of also weak a little bit to Planeswalkers, so something like Negate can be really good. Same thing with Display of Dominance. You know, this can take out a lot of important Planeswalkers in the format, so love Display. I'd play it, and I really like it more than a lot of players do, honestly. I play it in a lot of green sideboards where it doesn't see much sideboard play in green decks. I love it, especially in this format, tons of Planeswalkers right now. So love Display, and although it can't hit every Planeswalker, it can hit some really good ones. So love Display. Also, Clip Wing's important because we're lame against flyers for the most part. Overwhelm Mysteries protects us from sweepers that we don't want to happen. Glint, really good against decks that play a lot of spot removal. And this can also be a fast card, which is awesome. And that's pretty much all I want to talk about. I guess there's 1 copy of Reclaim in there to get back any Assault Formations that we want to get back, or any creatures that have died that are important to us at a given time. And again, a lot of our creatures are our spells. So getting back a creature to our hand, you know, we have to do it at the end of their turn or something, and then just draw it is usually how that works. But getting a creature back into our hand can be really important because, again, creatures are spells. Here are your power rankings here. A final score of 55. Not too bad considering the deck is only going to cost you about $10 on TCG Player right now. That fits pretty much any budget. $10 is not bad at all. And this deck is a blast to play, and it's got pretty good defense because of all our high toughness dudes. We've got a couple of guys in there that function as spells or removal of some kind. Sidisi's Faithful, for instance. And just, there's a lot of stuff we can do. You know, it's just, the deck looks like it's fairly basic when you first conceptualize it. Like, okay, what can I do with Assault Formation? But for a budget deck especially, this deck is fairly deep. So check it out, give it a shot. I think it's a sort of good training wheels for the non-budget version. Alright, now into the competitive deck, which we've added red to. We're doing Temur Eldrazi Assault Formation. That's a really long name for a deck. Hey, buddy, you're cute. You really want attention right now, which is fine. That's adorable. But, oh, you're slipping. And we're back. Well, in the competitive deck, we're obviously going to start with 4 copies of Assault Formation for all the same reasons that I said we would play 4 copies in the budget deck. I mean, I don't have to really pause too long on this one. Just assault formation, that's the whole name of the deck, so let's play 4. There's also a bunch of creatures that we're going to play that we also played in the budget deck, so let me go ahead and talk about those really quick and sort of highlight them. 3 copies of Jedi Offshoot, 4 copies of Sidisi's Faithful, 4 copies of Tide Drifter, 4 copies of Benthic Infiltrator, and 4 copies of Void Grafter. That's a total of 5 creatures that made it over from the budget deck. I just think that these are still fairly premium. You know, Jedi Offshoot, great as a 1-drop and can keep us in the game. Sidisi's Faithful, removal, so that's cool. And it has a cool trick with another card that we're playing in this deck. That's kind of nice. Tide Drifter, just incredibly premium. We're still playing a bunch of colorless creatures in this deck. Benthic Infiltrator, just, I love it so much, and it feels gimmicky, but I mean, 4 to 5 to maybe 6 if you pumped it with assault formation. Unblockable damage is always pretty freaking sweet. So that and Void Grafter, again, just insanely good sort of counter spell that is really, once you have a formation out, is a really good sort of rate for its mana cost. So we still want to play all of these creatures right here. I think they form a good core. But what have we added to the competitive deck? Well, I'm going to start with a choice here. And I know I gave you a choice with the last deck. I'll give you a choice with this deck. You could either play 4 copies of Sylvan Advocate or 4 copies of Kozilek Sentinel in the deck. There's actually an argument that Kozilek Sentinel's a better card because we're running a lot of colorless stuff, and if we don't have an assault formation out, then we can still attack for damage. But we can attack for damage with Sylvan Advocate. I just think Sylvan Advocate is probably what wins here, honestly. Not only because it's good at all stages of the game, you know, it's always got at least 2 power, if not 4 power, but we're playing something like 7 person lands in this deck, and it's really, really good with those man lands. So, like, super awesome with those man lands. I mean, a 5/5 Lumbering Falls is pretty nice. A Wandering Fumarole that can hit for 6 damage is pretty sweet. So, I just love the extra little bit of synergy. Igby's back. With Sylvan Advocate. But Kozilek Sentinel is also good. It has synergy with the colorless stuff we're playing, and with an assault formation, it's always a 2-mana 4/4. So you can play either one, and Kozilek Sentinel is a good idea if you don't have the budget to play something like Advocate. Since we're adding red, I feel like we have to play a playset of Crater Elemental, right? Really good follow-up to a turn 2 assault formation, you know, turn 2 assault formation, turn 3 check out by 6/6. That's pretty nice. It also functions as removal, just super versatile card, and I like everything about it. Just again, I like when our spells are our creatures, and even if you don't have a formation out, this is a really good turn 3 blocker, so I think the card has a lot going for it. Let's play Crater Elemental. Just do it. I'm going to play 2 copies of Gold Knight Castigator in the deck. I don't want to push it too far over that because it's not really good to draw in multiples, not necessarily. But pretty awesome card if you have your assault formation out. 9 surprise flying damage is always awesome and is a great, easy way to close the game out, you know. Just it's great that you can just blindside them with this, you know, and it is sort of a liability, but you're going to try and play this to close the game out. You're not going to want to play this and then say go. You know, so really, really good when you sort of can catch them off guard with it. And I, again, don't want to play too many copies of it. It's just a really good in-game card, so we don't have to play too many copies of it. To finish off the creatures, I'm going to play 1 copy of World Breaker, and yeah, I'll totally play it in this deck. Not only do we have some bonuses for playing colorless creatures in the deck, but with Assault Formation, this can be a 7/7. But that's all just icing. I mean, the card is really, really good by itself. It breaks a lot of important cards in Standard right now, and it's just a standout card in the format already. So, really like playing it. There's a cool trick with Sidisi's Faithful, too. I should point that out. A little bit of synergy, you know, we can either pop it back to our hand with a Sidisi's Faithful, or we can exploit it to a Sidisi's Faithful, and then bring it back. So all of that, both of those options are good, and it's just a cool bit of synergy to point out. But World Breaker is, the last thing I'll say, is that it's a way of closing the game out somewhat reliably that doesn't involve an assault formation needing to be in play. And I want as many ways to do that as possible. And to finish off the main deck, I'm going to play 2 copies of Kozilek's Return, which is actually one of the most important cards in the entire deck. And you could play Radiant Flames. It sort of all depends on your personal preference, but the decks that I want to not go faster than us, mostly, are the Green-Black Aristocrats deck and the Mono-White Aggro deck. And both of those can mostly be taken care of by dealing 2 damage to everything, and it'll never kill any of our guys. Radiant Flames, sure, we have the option of making it 2 damage, but if we ever have to make it 3 damage, that's a good option to have, but that'll kill Sylvan Advocates, that'll kill Jedi Offshoots, and that's not a big deal at all. But I think that the reason that Kozilek's Return wins here is not only because it never kills any of our creatures, but also because we can cast it again if we play a World Breaker. Very, very important. And although it'll kill some of our guys, it is always nice to have that option. And it is an option. It's a May ability to flash it back when you play a World Breaker. But again, very, very important to have the option. I'll play 24 lands in this deck, mostly so we can be a little bit more consistent about getting to World Breaker. I like 24 in here, and I could maybe play 25, but 24 has been working. The thing I want to point out here is Wandering Fumarole is especially good. You know, you can hit, it always does 4 damage. That's cool. But there's really not much to point out. You know, pretty cut and dry Temur mana base. I think this is what we want to be doing. Here's the sideboard for the competitive deck, and it's really not that much different. We're playing a little bit more in the sweeper department. We are playing Rad Flames in the sideboard here, and we're really not doing much else. We have access to Rending Volley, so I think we should play that, but for the most part, very close to the budget sideboard. And here are your power rankings for the competitive deck. A final score of 65, which is pretty good, honestly, for only about $125. Which is not a bad price for you know, a relatively competitive deck. I actually have enjoyed playing the deck and testing, and it does have really good value once you have an assault formation out, or if you can drop an assault formation sort of as a sorcery, you know, turn 5, 6, 7, you play your assault formation, and suddenly the landscape of your team completely changes. You know, you can always threaten an assault formation sort of as a bluff. That's not bad, because even if you don't have a formation out, they have to respect that you might be able to play one next turn and turn on your whole team. So this can really lead to some situations where they're like, should I or should I not? So it can be a really good bluff even if you don't have an assault formation out, you know. And the deck obviously has good defense at most points of the game, regardless of whether you have your guys in formation or not. So I haven't made a formation joke yet. A Beyonce joke, haven't done it, don't plan to do it other than just mentioning it just there. But anyway, should have done that forever ago. Bottom line here is that the deck can play defensively or offensively, and it can shift gears quickly. So I've actually enjoyed playing the deck a lot. It's got a lot going for it, surprisingly. That's all well and good, but what are we doing next time? I've actually got a lot in the works, including something I'm excited about, an analysis of aggro in the format. Can it work, and why doesn't it work for the most part? You know, we've got a couple of aggro decks that stand out right now, but it's not really an aggro format, to say the least. A lot of games go long, so let's analyze aggro. Can it work? How can it work? And why doesn't it work like it usually does right now? I'm excited to put that video out, and I'm interested in your response to it. I've also got, interesting here, a mono white control deck that's brewing up right now that I really, really like. Can't wait to bring that one to you. And I've got 3 other things too. It's like mill. I've got a mono blue mill deck. I've got a burn deck that I want to show to you that I've also really liked in testing. I think it's really good in this format. And then I've got a Grixis deck, which will probably be a blue-red and Grixis double deck. So a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. Let me know what you're most excited about. That's it. I'm Deb from SBMTG. If you enjoyed the content, do me a solid like, share, and comment. Talk to me. Let me know how you felt about it. And then sub if you're new. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm Deb. This is Zigby. I don't know if you can see him, but Ziggy's over there. Right there. He's right there. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, my wizards.
When I'm with my girl, she be rockin' that Wilma Flintstone. When it's time to rock the bell.